Hey guys, how are you today? So, one question that I get asked a lot, or see a lot online at least, is why did Padme fall in love with Anakin? I mean, their age difference was pretty big. She was 14 and he was 9. And then when they meet again in episode 2, he's still much younger than her, the same age difference. She could have gone for someone more like her, or closer to her age at least, or even older. Why would she go for this little boy? Well, we have a few sources here that can actually answer this question, and one of them is going to be from the official novelization, which goes through this in depth, as most novels do. So, first of all, she found him physically attractive. There are many points here that it's revealed in the book as to why she likes him, and the first one is that she thought he was attractive, and here's the excerpt. She looked over at Anakin, who was sleeping somewhat restlessly. She could see him now, not as a Jedi Padawan and her protector, but just as a young man. A handsome young man, and one whose actions repeatedly professed his love to her. A dangerous young man, to be sure. A Jedi who was thinking about things he should not. A man who was inevitably following the call of his heart above that of pragmatism and propriety, and all for her. Padme couldn't deny the attractiveness of that. She and Anakin were on similar roads of public service. She as a senator, he as a Jedi Padawan, but he was showing rebellion against the present course. Another thing she really likes about him is that he's so open and not closed off. He's emotionally able to convey his feelings about her. Here's another excerpt, and you guys might remember this from the actual movie, which is why George put it in there, because it shows how open Anakin is with his emotions. This is when they're by the fireplace. "You are in my very soul, tormenting me," Anakin went on, not a bit of falseness in his tone. This was no ploy to garner any physical favors. This was honest and straightforward. Refreshingly so to the woman who had spent most of her life being attended by handmaidens, whose job it was to please and entertaining dignitaries whose agendas were never quite what they seemed. So in Padme's world of politics, where everyone's kind of just crooked and two-faced, she loved that Anakin was just straight to the point and didn't beat around the bush. And another point is that he had a great sense of humor. Padme had to clutch at her belly. She was laughing so hard. Caught up in the whirlwind of the moment, Anakin sprang to his feet and ran off to the side. Another reason is that she really loved the fact that he followed his heart, and he was just very true to his feelings and the things that he wanted, even it went above his mandate to protect her. Like when Anakin said he wants to go to Tatooine to find his mother, and Padme said, "I'm gonna go too, whether you're going or not." They had a very similar moral code. And then in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, we get a lot more in Chapter 9. Padme goes over what her life was like before Anakin and then with him, and explains in depth what she sees in Skywalker. And this is probably the most important part of this video. Her life before Anakin belonged to someone else, some lesser being to be pitied, some poor, impoverished spirit who could never suspect how profoundly life should be lived. Her real life began the first time she looked into Anakin Skywalker's eyes, and found in there not the uncritical worship of little Annie from Tatooine, but the direct, unashamed, smoldering passion of a powerful Jedi, a young man to be sure, but every centimeter a man whose legend was already growing within the Jedi Order and beyond, a man who knew exactly what he wanted and was honest enough to simply ask for it, a man strong enough to unroll his deepest feelings before her without fear and without shame, a man who had loved her for a decade with faithful and patient heart, while he waited for the act of destiny he was sure he would someday open her own heart to the fire in his. But though she loves her husband without reservation, love does not blind her to his faults. She is older than he, and wise enough to understand him better than he does himself. He is not a perfect man. He is prideful and moody and quick to anger. But these faults only make her love him more, for his every flaw is more than balanced by the greatness within him. His capacity for joy and cleansing laughter, his extraordinary generosity of spirit, his passionate devotion not only to her but also in the service of every living being. He is a wild creature who has come gently to her hand, a vine tiger purring against her cheek. Every softness of his touch, every kind glance or loving word is a small miracle in itself. How can she not be grateful for such gifts? This is why she will not allow their marriage to become public knowledge. Her husband needs to be a Jedi. Saving people is what he was born for. To take that away from him would cripple every good thing in his troubled heart. Now, the funny part about this is that it doesn't really go into much detail, or at least remember on Padme's part, the fact that Anakin slaughtered all of the Sand People, not just the men, but the women and the children too. And I feel like that would kind of freak any woman out, but she understood that they took his mother, and it was through this blind rage that he killed all of them for her, And I think in that, even though it was so sadistic, she kind of took solace in it and maybe a bit of romance in the fact that he did it for love, for the love of his mother. And she could see that maybe he would do the same for her, which inevitably he did, which she didn't like. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of insight from the books into Padme's mind regarding why she really went for Anakin after all. I know so many people are like, why would she do this? She had so many other opportunities. She could have gone for Obi-Wan or someone else, but she went for Anakin. And well, it's this reason. Now, a lot of people are now saying there's a forced dyad between the two, but I don't believe that at all. I think this was just how it was. Some people have connections, and you don't choose the people you fall in love with. It just happens. So have an awesome rest of your day, and hit like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.